All right, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you all so much for joining this call this evening. As we have the very frank conversation tonight about our membership services around the area of MIP, as we say in the era of social distancing. As of right now, and I can't see it right now, but when I was last, we were approaching almost 400 brothers on the call, and so I think that that's sufficient enough of individuals for us to get started. So welcome to all of you who are on the call tonight. This evening we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the traditional MIP a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about traditional MIP. Then we're going to talk through the two areas of social distancing, two scenarios that our committee has come up with that we will discuss around how a chapter should conduct MIP in the era of social distancing. And then at the end, we will answer any questions that you all have that we will ask that you type into the chat box. Brother Matos will acknowledge those questions. We'll say what those questions are, and then I will try to answer them to the best of my ability and get that to you all. So let's go on and get started. In the spring of 2020, as many of you know, we had over 200, many of you may not know, but we had over 276 MIPs that was approved by our regional directors in total across the regions. 80 of those MIPs had to be canceled, which created a chain of events once COVID was introduced to the Brotherhood. In that regard, as many of you may already know, even though we had to cut off MIP in the middle of spring, in the middle of March, we had the opportunity to still have a 7% increase in MIP across the fraternity, which is tremendous. And so I am very confident that had we had the opportunity to continue these 80 MIPs that needed to get done, that we would have absolutely blown blown out of the water our membership MIPs for the spring of 2020. So again, we exceeded the amount of sigmas that we made in the spring of 2020 to the spring of 2019. And that was cutting off MIP in the middle of March, knowing that if we would have been able to go all the way through the month of May, we are confident that we would have had even more brothers that would have been made during that time period. So let's talk a little bit about traditional MIP. And I want to make sure that you all know this slide presentation will be uploaded into the blueprint along with some other additional information that we'll talk about for the Brotherhood. So please just know that that's going to be in the blueprint. So let's talk about the traditional MIP format. And I think that it's important that we have this discussion because we have new sigmas that we've made since the spring that I know that some of them are on here tonight. And we want to make sure that, and there are brothers whose chapters are interested in getting back involved with MIP. And this gives an opportunity for brothers to kind of see how the process works. So let's go through what a traditional MIP looks like. So a traditional, typical MIP is your chapter has to identify an MIP chair. The chapter will vote on who that individual is going to be. It may be a position that's wrapped up into your chapter's governance, or once your chapter has decided that they're going to conduct MIP, they decide to identify an MIP chair. Then there's an intake team that's then assembled. Always remember that even at the alumni level, technically, there should always be at least one collegian that's actually on the MIP team for each of the MIPs that's taking place, even at the alumni level. Then your chapter develops an MIP schedule, 45 days 45 days for collegiates, 60 days for alumni. Now, again, each region conducts MIP training and certification. And this has been done individually by each of your regions. Before you can participate in MIP for your chapter, you have to be MIP certified. You have to be a financial brother, and you have to be MIP certified. One of the things that we're going to be changing, I don't know if it'll be in the fall right away, but what's coming is that when we introduce to the fraternity the learning management system, the LMS system, brothers will be able to get MIP certified at their leisure. No longer will you have to worry about a regional gathering or a state gathering to be MIP certified. You'll be able to go online to the blueprint, click on the learning management system, and select MIP certification, and you can sit in the comfort of your home and go through that certification. That's coming down the pipeline, but as for right now, MIP certifications are normally scheduled by the region or by your state. So if you have any MIP certification questions about when your region is having MIP certification, I would ask you to reach out to your vice regional director or your current regional director. Now, again, the typical MIP process, that chapter, once you have identified your schedule and you've submitted it, then you now submit a PBS 7C form through the blueprint. All of this is now automated. You submit it through the blueprint where the regional director approves your 7C, giving you permission to conduct MIP for your chapter. Once the RD has approved your PBS 7C form, then you can now begin the MIP educational sessions. As you all know, there's 6 modules, there are 5 educational meetings, and then the 1 final assessment, which is the test. And then you have your initiation ceremony. Just about everybody on this call, the majority of everyone on this call, it should be familiar with what the initiation ceremony is, our traditional initiation ceremony. Now, in the era of social distancing, we have to think a little bit different. And it was incumbent upon us as a fraternity and the leadership to come up with ways for us to look at how do we, in the era of social distancing, how do we address the challenges that we're going to be facing. One of the things that we have identified is that the universities, many universities across the country reached out to Phi Beta Sigma, said to us, hey, if we are going to continue with membership intake on our college campuses, we need for Phi Beta Sigma to have an all virtual process, and what that's going to look like. And so the leadership pulled together a task force to kind of look at our current process and to try to determine what would a MIP certification look like, what would an MIP process look like in the era of social distancing. So what we did was we recognized that in this time period, just about everything would be the same up until the first 5 steps. Chapters would identify an MIP chair. The chapters would then put together an intake assembly team. Chapters would then develop an MIP schedule. Chapters would then submit a PBS 7C to the regional director, and then the chapters would then wait for approval from that regional director. So up until the first 5 steps of conducting MIP, all the same. And then we determined that there would be 2 scenarios that the Brotherhood would have to determine, would have to decide in going through the MIP process, knowing what your situation is. The first one is modified in person. Scenario number 1. That means that once you have identified who your candidates are, whether your chapter, the average Phi Beta Sigma chapter size, MIP size is right around four brothers. And so what the membership team is asking chapters to do because COVID-19 is still very rampant in many states, but we know that there are chapters that are moving forward and looking at conducting MIP. We're asking chapters that they now have to look at how they're going to be meeting with the potential candidates. That means that social distancing and following all CDC guidelines are going to be imperative during that time period. That means that you can still meet with the candidates. It's just that that chapter has to have the proper meeting the proper CDC requirements if that is going to take place. That's scenario number one. In scenario number two, it's all completely virtual. That means that that the candidates are going to be meeting on a virtual platform, whether it's Zoom or WebEx will be the two platforms that we're going to encourage chapters to take a look at, and those individuals would then meet as a group on that virtual platform with their educational sessions along with their MIP chair, and go through each of the educational meetings during that time period. That's scenario number two. Now we move on to the initiation. All right. So now scenario number one, modified in person. The chapter in scenario number one has said that we are going to continue to meet. Not only did we meet during the educational sessions, but we are also going to meet during the initiation session. What the task force recognized was that to limit the spread of the coronavirus, we're asking chapters to relook at how many individuals participate in the ceremony. The committee has stated that no more, that you can have, the limit is 3 brothers that would conduct the initiation ceremony. You won't need, some chapters will have to double up on some of the roles of the ceremony, but other than that, you will still meet in person, but those individuals will still have to have masks on. Those individuals, we're asking that chapters would have masks and gloves during the initiation ceremony, and that they still adhere to proper social distancing while you're going through the initiation ceremony. Now, scenario number two, the chapter has opted to not only do a virtual education process, but the chapter has also opted to also do a virtual initiation process. What would that virtual process look like? There will only be one virtual ceremony that will take place during each session. So during the summer period that we've agreed to conduct MIP for the summer, on August 1st, that Saturday, August 1st would be the only virtual initiation that will take place for the entire organization, that will be conducted by our national virtual initiation team. What does that look like? What does a virtual initiation look like? Brothers would the candidates would log on to a platform from a password and login credentials that they would receive. But what the difference would be is that each candidate would have a proctor, and that's the term that we're using, a proctor that would be in the room with that potential candidate. So that means that either someone from the chapter or someone from the local area would be with the candidate when they're going through their virtual initiation. That individual has to be financial, that individual has to be MIP certified, and that individual would be in the room with the brother. The international virtual initiation team will take all candidates through the ceremony, but there will be no secrets that will be revealed on the virtual platform. There will be instructions that will be given to the candidate. Those instructions will be what their proper dress would be that they need to have during the ceremony. It will also be the do's and the don'ts, which is, of course, no recording of the initiation ceremony and no posting of the initiation ceremony. And that's why we want each candidate to have a proctor in the room with them at their location. When we get to the part of the ceremony where the secret knock, the password, and the fellowship grip has to be shared, that brother that is in the room with that candidate will give that information and show that brother that fellowship grip at that time period. Now, worst case scenario that there's a candidate that is not able to have a brother in the room with him when he has to go through the virtual initiation. That individual will go through the initiation ceremony virtually, but no secrets would be shared with that brother. But he has 48 hours to coordinate to meet with a financial MIP certified Sigma that will meet with him to give him that information and to show him the fellowship grip. Again, none of that information will be shared over the platform, over the virtual platform to be conducted. All this information will be located on our blueprint for our chapters to download and for individuals to be able to go back to. There is a document that we do have, the Phi Beta Sigma rituals updated, and also the ritual password and information that will be on there. But in the blueprint, we will have this. Not only will we have this information, but we will also have the breakdown of what chapters need to do with all the details as it relates to there being a proctor that would be in the room with the brother. We are still asking chapters to adhere to being able to reveal who their new members are via social media, and they have within 7 days after their ceremony to conduct initiation, to conduct the introduction of their new members again via social media. We are asking chapters to be mindful of the age, the era in which we're in right now. With social distancing, wearing masks are still going to be critical during your educational sessions. Even during your new member presentation shows, we're still asking chapters to adhere to those processes and making sure that everyone is in compliance during that time period and then moving forward. So that's it. With that being said, we're now going to answer some questions from the Brotherhood around the two scenarios that we are asking chapters to consider when they decide to go through in membership intake. One of the things that will be coming down the pipeline before we get to the questions, let me make sure I mention this as well. In the era of now that we're in this season of COVID and chapters having to look at how can they begin to recruit online, we are going to be providing chapters with techniques and information on how to recruit online during this time period. How can they reach out to individuals? I am of the firm believer that this will not impact our alumni chapters as much because at the end of the day, many of the men that are joining our alumni chapters have relationships with already Sigmas that are in our graduate chapters. The challenges that we have is going to be our collegiate chapters. If we have to continue to prolong this season of COVID and how our collegiate chapters are going to recruit, because we have on the verge some chapters that are on the verge of dying. And many of you know that once a chapter dies, it's like hell trying to bring those chapters back. And so we have to provide tools to some of our chapters on how to recruit in this era of social media and how to recruit online to identify individuals. So now with that being said, I would like to move to some of the questions of some of the brothers that I know is being typed into the blueprint, into the chat box, and I'll answer some of those questions. Are you tracking all of those, Brother Michaels? Or should I scroll up?
Yes, Brother Ray. What I'm doing is I'm compiling them into a list. Okay. So if you like, I can begin asking some of the questions I've seen.
Sure, please do.
Sure. So of course we have questions around the training materials that we're presenting tonight, and will these be made available to the chapters that can take it back to the brothers that can take it back to the chapters? And if we've answered that, we're going to upload them to the blueprint and make those available. We are recording this webinar, so we will also make that available through Blueprint for the Brothers. So as far as MIP, so a question is being asked, when will MIP certification to the LMS be available? We are still working out some details, but rest assured we'll make that announcement to the Brotherhood once it is up and going.
Well, let me answer, put a little bit more to that. Our goal, our timeline for MIP certification is the fall. That is our timeline. Now we're working feverishly to make that happen, and we're trying to right now work on the integration of the LMS system into the Blueprint. So we're running beta tests and making sure that there are no glitches. The first process, the first educational piece that we're going to put on there is going to be risk management. After risk management, the MIP certification is the next module that we're going to be uploading. So our goal is shooting for the fall of 2020. All right, here we go. Slides will be uploaded. Yes, MIP certification. If modified process, we are only allowing 4 brothers. Will we make exceptions for brothers that have family members being initiated? Absolutely, absolutely. As I said, let me give some clarity around the modified process. Again, we want chapters to be smart around the modified process. We want to limit the amount of brothers that are going to be exposed. And so again, it takes at least 3 brothers. We have to have at the minimum 3 brothers to conduct the ceremony for our new initiates. We're not saying that the chapter can't, members can't attend, but we're asking the chapter to be smart about how many individuals are going to be attending. What is the space that you all are going to be in? Is it going to be a lot of contact? And does the chapter really need to be there? But if one of the candidates has a member that's a family member and needs to be there, then the chapter has to make that call. But of course, I would encourage you to make sure that you do that. Can we conduct sessions virtually and initiation in person, or does both phases have to be identical? That's a great question. And no, you're not beholden to that. You can do the virtual sessions and then the initiation be in person. But of course, it is recommended that you let the regional director know how your chapter is going to move as it relates to that. If you're going to do virtual if you're going to do virtual education sessions and then do an in-person MIP, absolutely. Now, but there is a caveat to that. If the university, and this is more so for our collegiate chapters, because our alumni chapters have a little bit more flexibility. If the university states that the process has to be completely virtual, then we have an obligation to adhere to that. And so I would ask any chapter advisors that are online right now to please make sure that if your collegiate chapter is going to request MIP, it is important that you reach out to the university to find out what their stance is and what policies that they've put in place in the era of COVID. Many of our universities, we have shared with them what our process is, but we've compiled the list the best that we can, that we provided to our regional directors to say which universities have said no as it relates to MIP for the summer, no as it relates to virtual MIP or modified MIP, or yes to virtual MIP or yes to modified. Now we've tried to share that with as many universities, but we're going to ask you to make sure that you get the right heads up moving forward from your university. What if the candidate does not allow brothers into their home? I'm sorry. If modified process only, can we conduct sessions virtually? Yes. Okay, we did that one. What if the candidate does not allow a brother into their home for the ceremony? How should a chapter proceed? Great question. And that goes to the last part of the virtual process, where if there is no proctor that can be with that brother, then that brother will still go through the ceremony, but that brother would not get access to the password or to the fellowship grip until he has 48 hours that he has to connect with a chapter to be able to do that. And all of this will be coordinated before the initiation ceremony. And I want to make sure that we're clear on that. If a chapter opts to do a virtual ceremony and the regional director is aware of that, then that means that there is coordination that has to take place with how many candidates do you have that has to go through the virtual ceremony? How many proctors are we going to need in order to make this happen? Will everyone allow for someone to be in their home? If they can't be in their home, then we then have to connect with that brother within 48 hours. So that means that the chapter has to coordinate to get with that brother the next day or the following day to be able to give him the rest of the ceremony, the rest of the information that's going to be necessary. Let's see. Will there be tools in place to prevent screen recording from electronic devices? Great question, and that is the purpose of why there needs to be a proctor with those individuals. I will tell you that the reality is that we don't have the capacity to do that. Now we are going to when it comes to the virtual ceremony, that is why the national body will conduct the virtual ceremony. It will not be run by anyone. And normally on the Zoom platform or the WebEx platform, it is the host that has the power of recording and not the individuals that are viewing the presentation. The host has the power to record. But now if someone is in there with their camera trying to record the ceremony, that's why the proctor would, we're going to make sure that there are rules. We want to provide rules. Those are part of the don'ts that we want to provide to the initiates and make sure that they understand that they can't do that. And also the proctor should make sure that that's not happening. We need.
Brother Ray.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, and perhaps you've answered this, but who decides which scenario the intake team or chapter can use?
That would be up to the MIP chair and the committee that's put together at that time. And then they would then alert the regional director on what scenario are they gonna take. We should know, we should know how many virtual MIPs are going to be. MIP ceremonies are going to be conducted. And so that we know how to prepare moving forward. But the MIP chair and the MIP committee would make that decision on what direction that they want to go.
So what I am understanding is that a chapter has to make that decision, or the intake team has to make that decision prior to starting the process, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
That is correct. And again, the regional directors are going to be fluid and flexible with our chapters because they understand what's taking place. Modified. I hate that when your person types, it moves the so I got to keep on scrolling up. If the modified process we are on, okay, we've answered that. What if the candidates is not? Okay, we've answered that. For the chapters who do the virtual process, what happens if the new members are back home during the initiation process and can't coordinate with any brothers to teach them the secrets? Also, are you all planning to lower the price for membership during these times? That answer is no. We are not planning on lowering the cost of membership because the individuals are still getting the same materials and the same assessments are still required and still needed. If the breakdown of the MIP fees that are given by the new members, there's still insurance that needs to be paid that is a part of the process. They're still going to be getting their certificates. They're still going to be getting their pens and all the other assessments to run the operations of the headquarters. So that end part of the question is no. We're not planning on lowering the MIP fees. But for the other part of the process, as it relates to what happens if the new members are back home during the initiation process, and can't coordinate with any brothers to teach them the secrets? That's a great question. It would be, it would be hard for us to, that for anyone to be anywhere where we will not be able to coordinate with a Sigma somewhere to make that happen. And what we'll have to, and again, those are one of those case by case basis where there's going to have to be an outreach to the local brothers that may be in the state. If a brother is in a place where there is no chapter, then we'll have to be flexible on extending that 48-hour window for him to connect with a brother to teach him what the secrets are and what the fellowship grip is. And that's one of those case by case issues that we'll have to address if they do come up. In regards to virtual initiation, what if a chapter completes all modules necessary for intake for spring 2020, but was unable to complete the initiation due to the timing of COVID and the school restricted in-person initiation? I'm going to encourage you to get in touch with your regional director. And this may be a scenario where when now that the brothers are dispersed, that they will be able to do the initiation ceremony virtually in August. And we will coordinate with there to be brothers with each of those collegiate members around the country so that they can serve as proctors. But I would encourage you to contact your regional director so that we can kind of work through how we can get them squared away and get through their ceremony if they can't get together by this summer to get it all done. Pre-existing conditions. I don't know what that means. If a brother has, I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what pre-existing conditions are, but that's all they typed. So I would need a little bit more context. If you could type, Brother Jolly, what do you mean about pre-existing conditions? Are we taking brothers that have pre-existing conditions? What if a brother has pre-existing conditions? I need a little bit more context on that. If we do educational sessions in person, does the chapter need to create a screening document with questions, or does the chapter already have a document created? And can temperatures be recorded at every session? I will say that if a chapter, I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that we could probably have some discussion around, creating a pre-screening document for brothers before they come in to an educational session to make sure that they are good to go. And can temperatures be recorded? I would, if you have the capacity or the capabilities to do that, then I would encourage you to do that to protect yourself and to protect the initiates from potential exposure. But let's write down, Brother Mato, pre-screening document to provide to chapters during education sessions. I think that's a great idea. To the brothers that have the fee question, they need to know virtual MIP costs more. We should actually raise the fees. Okay, all right. So what are the ramifications if it is discovered that a newly initiated candidate has recorded their initiation? Then, I would, that's a process that we'd have to take up with the regional directors. But of course, I would say that individual would have to immediately be removed from the organization, because we are going to explicitly tell them, we would have said to them multiple times that this should not be recorded. And so if someone decides to record it, and then that they already are not adhering to the rules of the organization, then they don't need to be a part of our organization. And so we'd have to go through the proper process in order to have them removed. But that would be my recommendation. The fraternity is still a business and needs to run. Okay, got it. Is there going to be an option to conduct a blended learning process for the sessions, virtual and in person, or are the chapters required? I think we've already addressed that. Yes, chapters will be allowed to do blended. You just have to let the regional director know which version that you're going to be using. So how do we collect money from them if they are at home? Cash App, collegiate scenario. Again, as you all know, if they're going to do, Brother Matos?
Yes.
All right. We should be able to, I don't know if our system has it, but they should be able to, and I wish I had Brother Cornelius on here, where the monies are going to be able to be uploaded by the candidates. And if not, then yes, then chapters would have to move. Chapters would have to have the brothers, cash app them the money. But the MIP chair would be the individual then that would upload all the money for that class for the chapter, because I don't think we can do it individually yet.
Currently, yeah, that is correct. Currently, payments submitted once a candidate's profile is created in Blueprint, the fees drop. The fees have to be paid through Blueprint by someone who has access to the portal. So a candidate for membership does not. So that means your best option is to collect that money by means of a Cash App, Venmo, whatever system you have to collect the fees, and then that one person then go ahead and pays all the fees at the same time.
Right. Absolutely.
And while we're talking about this, please remember that whenever you submit fees through Blueprint, they are assessed a 4% processing fee. So that as you are collecting payments, do understand that there is a 4% fee. So if you're not going to charge that to the candidates and you're just going to send the full amount and mail us the money, please make sure that you're planning that ahead so that we can get you your materials in a timely manner.
Okay, pre-existing conditions. All right, here we go. Please remind chapters to be mindful in selecting brothers to perform in activities in person, that those brothers are not a high risk of COVID. That's a great statement, brother Jolly. And I think one of the things that we will provide to the chapters along with that pre-screening, brothers. I mean, we've all been watching the news. We've all know that that we have got to do the best that we can to protect ourselves. If chapters are going to participate in membership intake, I am encouraging chapters to make sure you have your mask on when you're doing your educational sessions. If you can provide gloves, or those brothers come with gloves, we're asking them to make sure that they have that. Meeting during the person. Do we have a date yet for the fall initiation? Not yet, but I will hover to say, Brother McGee, that it will probably be very similar to last year. It will probably be probably by the second week of November will probably be when the fall initiation will take place. We know that many universities and many chapters, especially at the university level, that they're going to be going home for the Thanksgiving break and not coming back. And so all the MIPs should be wrapped up probably during that time period. So which means that before they break for Thanksgiving, all initiations should be completed. All MIP shows should be completed. New member presentation should be completed before they all break for the holidays. And again, this is for our collegiate brothers. Alumni brothers can go past that time period. There are some HIPAA concerns associated with taking and knowing people vital signs like temperatures. Thank you for that, Brother Johnson. We'll make sure that we get the right make sure that we're in compliance in doing that, and making sure that we're good to go for the brothers, and make sure that we're in compliance. I would use extreme cautions around this. All right, screening. Let's see here. Screening should be done for both initiates and current chapter members. How will the proctors be validated? Will the candidates have to submit them to IHQ for validation prior to initiation? So yes, so the proctors again should come. The proctors should be individuals that are MIP certified, and those individuals, that list of proctors will be submitted will be a pool of them that will be submitted to the regional director, so that the regional director is aware of which individuals are going to be that proctor. So chapters are going to chapters are going to be the first line of defense. Is this brother financial? Is this brother MIP certified? And again, case by case basis, if something comes up that you have to have the communication with your regional director for them to be able to sign off. But there will be a pool of brothers that should be identified that will serve as proctors. If your chapter decides that they are going to have a virtual initiation, then you need to begin building that list of proctors immediately. so that we can get them, so that they can be signed off and validated before the initiation ceremony on August 1st for the summer, and then for whatever the date we select in the fall. Thank you so much, Brother Artist, for that. About the record temperatures, we cannot keep record of temperatures taken, violation of HIPAA Act, especially if you have names written with it. Taking and knowing and recording vital signs. Okay, what happens if an initiated exposed to the virus and can't come to the initiation process if it is modified, if it's a modified initiation process? Okay, so the way I'm understanding this question, the chapter has decided to go through the modified initiation process. They're going to meet social distancing, they're going to, during the educational sessions, and then they're going to meet social distancing requirements during the initiation ceremony. But now one of the candidates has been exposed to COVID and won't be able to be at the modified initiation. The only thing that can be said is that then that individual would have to participate in the virtual process. And again, that would be letting your regional director know what the circumstance and scenario that has just taken place, and that this particular individual will be conducting his ceremony virtual based off of his circumstance. Shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't be a problem. Why not create a candidate portal? Great question, Brother Lawson. We're actually talking about that. What is the candidate pays by check or money order? Is the blueprint set up to do e-check payments? I see the option, but not sure if that means to pay with the chapter check. Gotcha. Great question, brother. But you about to say something, brother?
Right now the e-check feature is not active. So if you're gonna pay with a check, a cashier's check or money order, please make sure that you mail those to the headquarters. And if you mail anything to the headquarters, make sure you're getting that tracking number so that we can keep tabs on in case it's delayed.
All right. If the university will only allow a virtual MIP, zero in-person contact, how will we account for a proctor, as that will require in-person contact? Thank you for that question, Brother Hudson. And again, if that goes to that part of scenario number 2 where there could be absolutely no contact at that time period. Once those individuals have gone through the initiation ceremony and they are now official members of the organization, and we've alerted the university, and they know that once they are official members of the official members of the fraternity, within 48 hours then we'll have to have brothers that will meet with those collegiate brothers to give them the fraternity secrets and the fellowship grip. They will be members of the organization at that time, and so and won't be going through the process. And we would have done our due diligence as an organization to meet their requirement of zero in-person contact. Now, once they become members of the organization, the university can't dictate what they do as members of the fraternity after that. But what we will be able to honestly be able to tell the university is that their educational sessions and their initiation was zero person in contact, and we met that obligation and did the right thing. And then, of course, then the fraternity then after 48 hours need to connect with those brothers to show them the fellowship grip. That's not true. Vital signs are not a diagnosis, no different than going to the barbershop or beauty shop and being required to sign in to have a temperature check. All right, I hear you there, Brother Murray, who is a nurse. So we'll make sure that we provide provide the brothers with the right information in moving forward as it relates to that. All right, recommendations: have the initiates and the proctors take a photograph on the day of the initiation to maintain accountability and documentation, or have what happened there? Or have some sort of check-in process by region prior to receiving access to virtual initiation. Okay. Should the brothers that will be proctors take their technology to the location of the initiation to protect the integrity of the initiation? There are ways to screen record, and the proctor may not be aware of. So to protect the integrity of the initiation, should they not use the candidate's computer/laptop and bring their own? That's definitely something that we can explore. And I think what we'll do is, as I talk to the regional directors, this could be an option that chapters can do. But the reality is that every proctor may not have technology that they'll be able to take with them to the respective individual. And so we don't want to have that as a potential burden on the proctor. So I would say that we can make it an option for chapters if they have the capacity to do that, and would encourage that. But the reality is that we want to be able to handle it all of that. If a candidate is found to have COVID during this process and he has to go through module 7 initiation, can or should we still send a proctor for the virtual initiation? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We should not send, if we know that a candidate has COVID, then we have provided the option for that individual to go through the initiation ceremony without receiving the fellowship grip or the fraternity secrets. Once we've identified that individual as being recovered from COVID, then we will then provide him with the remainder of that of his information. But we have to protect, our brothers at all times, and even the initiate. So I would say absolutely not. We should not do that. Is there any waivers to be signed if we do decide to conduct sessions in person? When we say any waivers, are we talking about waivers for the brotherhood? If you could give me a little bit more context on that, I would need a little bit more context on that. Are we talking about waivers for the candidates, or waivers for the brotherhood, or waivers for both? How should chapters conduct virtual information sessions or virtual court potential members? So I will tell you that there are chapters now that are conducting virtual informationals. They're creating flyers. They're posting it on their social medias. Each of the members of the chapter, they're also courting guys that they already know that already is in their network, and then inviting those individuals to the virtual informational sessions. But we are going to provide for chapters how to recruit virtually in this era. So more information to come on that. The goal is to have that within the next few weeks for our chapters to be able to have. But there are some chapters now that are being very intuitive in identifying and still conducting virtual initiations. Virtual informational sessions during that time period. We tried that as doing an initiation and recording the presentation, but the university said if the reveal showed them together, there would be possible sanctions. All right, so great. That's a great statement. So when chapters are trying to, and there are some universities, when we talk about the reveal shows, right? If the university has said that, hey, there's no contact at all, then that means then the chapters have got to be creative on how you put together your reveal shows with the individuals being separated. You're separated. I don't have the answer for you as it relates to what that's going to look like, but I am sure that there's enough creative minds in this organization to help the chapter put together a reveal show that still meets the guidelines of a university that says that there should be no contact at all. So those guys should be able to record something separately. It needs to be a mashup, and then revealing those individuals to the world. And so again, so that we don't disrupt our relationship with the university. Always remember, brothers, we are on these college campuses at the pleasure of the university. And so we have to do our very best to meet those guidelines during that time period. And so if they ask for that, then absolutely we have to do that. Trump rally. Oh, waivers like the attendees at the Trump rally sign. Waivers that won't hold PBS liable if the candidate or the member of the MIP contracts COVID. I'll tell you that the risk management folks are talking about this, so we're in good company here, and we will see what we can provide to the brothers. We'll let IHQ create a COVID. If absolutely, it would be IHQ that will create that and provide that to the brothers if we deem it necessary per the insurance company. And I owe you guys that information very soon, because as I know we all are getting prepared for MIP now. So we should hopefully have an answer for you before the end of this week. And if we do have to have a waiver, then we will make sure that we put that in the blueprint for you to download so that that's signed by all the potential candidates, and you have that on record moving forward. And that is the last question that I've seen in the here in the chat box. So let me close by, first of all, thank you all for all the questions. I hope that you all that we've satisfied your any of the challenges, any questions that you have, but any angst that you have about this process. You know, is it perfect, brothers? No, it's not. I know that many of you would like to carry on in the traditional way. We meet with our candidates the traditional way. We initiate them the traditional way. The reality is that we can't do that, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any other way other than knowing that we have a responsibility to provide at least an option for our brothers. I believe that the proctor process, having a proctor in the room with the brothers, if the chapter has to go through a virtual initiation, is probably the best that we could come up with in this current scenario. But I believe that the majority of the chapters are going to conduct MIP, the modified MIP process. I believe that, brothers can do it, with educational sessions virtually. And then when you have the initiation ceremony, the brothers can come together as long as you adhere to social distancing. The reality is, brothers, is that people are still dying from COVID. And we have to do our part to make sure that we protect this brotherhood, protect the future of this brotherhood. We can't stop making new brothers. We just can't. That's just not an option for the organization. But what we can do is be responsible in how we make our new members moving forward. I know that there's going to be some talk and there's going to be some angst out there, and I can't address that. What I can do is know that as your vice president and the membership team, we were able to come together and to give you an option on how you can do this safely and responsibly. If you have any questions about this process, please contact your regional directors. Please contact your vice regional directors. And of course, you can hit me up on a side note and I will, try to answer whatever questions that you all may have. But I appreciate everything that you guys are doing as we continue to ready, set, grow this organization, even in the midst of Corona, in the midst of the Corona pandemic. So with that being said, brothers, I appreciate you. Are we going to have another MIP certification session? So Brother Barlow, I will tell you to please contact your regional, regional director to find out, or your vice regional director, when MIP certification is going to take place in your state or in your region again, as we lead up to MIP certification, MIP for your chapter. But please reach out to them and make that happen. Being that the candidates will come in past mid-year, will there be initiation fees cover them till 2022? Great question. Yes, Brother Ruben, we are absolutely aware of that, and we are all initiation, the way that it works now, all initiation that takes place October 1 and over in the fall of 2020, October 1st and before, those brothers will be financial for 2020, 2021, and 2022. As of right now, the process is if any initiation takes place before October 1, those individuals will be financial for 2020 and only 2021. So that should answer your question. So yes, but the most of it will be mid-year, so they will be covered for those 2 years. Will there be a lust provided once virtual MIP training is done? A list? Will there be a list provided once virtual MIP training is done? I don't know what list, as far as when you say virtual MIP training, we're talking about in the future. If you're talking about in the future, when we create, if you're talking about the LMS system, when brothers are MIP certified virtually, okay, yes. So what's going to happen with the LMS system? What will happen with the LMS system is this: when you log onto the computer and you go through your MIP certification online, there will be a badge will be uploaded into your profile saying that you are MIP certified. So yes, that is going to happen automatically when we start doing it online. And I'm hoping it's in the fall. We're working hard for it to be in the fall. You said the goal is to have the national MIP certification done by the fall. I'm assuming done before the fall initiation period to give brothers chapters ability to, yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Brother Morale. The goal is to have it, really before the fall starts. And we're working towards that. So, that's the goal. Yeah, and I say that, with all respect, we're working towards that being the MIP certification will be at the beginning of the fall session for chapters to be able to have that before we get into the MIP the MIP season. We should be sharing with the chapters very soon what the MIP scheduled dates are for the fall for our collegiate chapters. So that's going to be coming very soon.
Brother Ray, may I interject for a moment?
Sure.
Brothers, I want to make something clear because I'm reading some questions and I want to make sure there's no confusion. This is not MIP certification. We're simply going over and letting you know what the options are to do MIP while we are observing social distancing. MIP certification is still left at the regional level, so if you're looking to get MIP certified, that's great. To reiterate Brother Ray's point, please contact your regional leadership to set up MIP certification. But this is not an MIP certification.
All right. All right, brothers. So look, please go out. Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Can the proctor help the new brother to sign on to the blueprint for the first time? Well, that's if their credentials should be already squared away. Now that's a great point, Brother Scott. We'll also include that, Brother Matos, just for clarity. By the time they get to the initiation ceremony, their profile should already be uploaded into the blueprint, correct?
That depends.
Okay.
It depends if they have paid their monies. So what happens is you will know that's the case if you have their new member materials.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
true. Blueprint account has been created. But we have chapters that will initiate candidates without paying the fees up front. And so if you're not sending us the money prior to, once they have a membership number generated, they can then go ahead and access Blueprint and set up their account.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is correct. So brothers, so that's why we asked you before MIP starts. Technically, we're asking chapters that they need to send that money in. Once you've identified who your candidates are and you're moving through the process instead of waiting until the very end. It's not fair for the candidates. We have a very good process at the national headquarters now. If the money comes in at a decent time, they will be able to have all of their materials during before the initiation ceremony begins. Someone asked the question, is the upcoming LMS plan long-term, even though the Crescent Club program is still in the works? Yes, it is long-term because even the LMS system is going to be part of the fraternity moving forward. So certification is you're always going to have to be MIP certified, even though, we're going to have the Crescent Club, the Crescent Development Club. Brothers are still going to have to be MIP certified, and it will be done through the LMS system in the future. How do you administer the fraternity assessment via the virtual process? If you're talking about the, he's talking about, I'm assuming the test. We're talking about how can a test be administered via the virtual process. What chapters have done until we get the test, until the test is going to be something that will be online, that we'll be able to do for the future. Chapters have just been having individuals download the test. They do it, they scan it, and they email it back to their MIP chair. That's the only process we have right now for the virtual process. If state and local government guidelines allow 10 people, is it okay for us to exceed the 3-member guideline that is for the alumni level? Absolutely, that is fine. We want to just make sure that we let chapters know that you cannot conduct a virtual ceremony with no less than 3 brothers. You can have all the brothers, but again, we want the chapters to be smart about that. So if you only have 4 candidates, then yes, then you can have 6 other brothers that can be there if that's what the local government guidelines suggest. But we're just asking chapters to please be smart and just use your head as it relates to that. Will MIP certification prior to LMS and in LMS be modified to cover virtual MIP, i.e. role of proctor and other pertinent facts? That's a little jumbled there. Will MIP certification prior to the LMS and in LMS be modified to cover the virtual MIP? Well, let me take it one step at a time. Brothers who want to participate in MIP for the summer, you have to be MIP certified. And so if you're not MIP certified at this time, your chapter will probably, can't do that unless your region is going to be able to conduct a MIP certification. As we move into the fall, I am sure that if we don't have the LMS system up yet, then the regions will, I am sure, conduct virtual, regions will conduct MIP certification again. And that's just, I'm not speaking on behalf of the regions. They have their own schedules on how they do that. Our goal is to have the LMS system up at the beginning of the fall season, and then brothers then have the capacity to be MIP certified at that time period, to be able to conduct MIP in their chapter, whether it's modified or whether it's virtual, and i.e. the role of the proctor and other pertinent facts. So that's my answer to that. If I did not answer your question or understand it properly, Brother Covington, please touch base with me one-on-one, and I'll try to make sure I'm more clear on that. Virtual blah blah blah. Let's see here. Great, thanks. Virtual module tests can be created in fillable PDFs. That's right, with embedded emails to MIP chair. Thank you so much for that, Brother Strong. Virtual module tests can be created as fillable PDFs with embedded email to MIP chair, which makes time sensitive as part of the testing standard. And he's willing to help, and I am willing to help him create. Thank you so much for that. So, and that's something that, let's touch bases with that. So what Brother Strong is saying is that when we get to the MIPs, to the testing period part, we can create a fillable PDF for brothers, for chapters that they can send out to the candidates. They do it online, and then it's emailed back to that MIP chair. So that is actually a better process, and we'll make sure that we include that into the process. If LMS is not up by the fall, will the MIP team still certify like we've been doing? I'm going to say that yes, I'm sure that the regions will continue to do that, and moving forward. No worries about it, Brother Covington. We'll work through it if I didn't answer it properly. That is why candidate portals are important there for the transition. Absolutely. I agree with you, Brother Lawson. I believe that at some point we have to create candidate portals so that the candidates can log in and they can do their educational sessions and their testing in our portal, and then moving forward. That's all coming in the future. That's all infrastructure stuff that we believe is, especially now in this new era, it makes more sense to do that. We're just not there yet as an organization, but we are moving in that direction. All right. If you are certified for summer, will it carry over into the fall? I would ask you to contact your regional director, your vice regional director, to get that answer. Normally when individuals are certified, it's for a year, at least a year. So I would say that you should be fine if you're certified for the summer, unless your certification runs out over the fall. But if you just got certified this past spring, or you get certified this summer, you should be good for a year. Will this webinar be on the blueprint? Yes, it will be. This webinar will be on the blueprint, along with other materials that you guys will have that you can download to move forward. All right. Any other questions, brothers, before we log off here? All right. I appreciate you guys so very much. I appreciate your understanding. I appreciate you guys understanding the world in which we're in now and helping us to do what we can to protect not only the brotherhood, but protect the initiates that are coming in and protect our families, right? This is all about protecting our families as well. As you go to these educational sessions and you go back home to your own home, I'm not willing to risk it all and you all shouldn't either for your families. But it's important that we do what we have to do, continue to make sure the Phi Beta Sigma is solvent and that we exist in the future. I will tell you that our peers they're trying to figure out ways on how to do this. And I'm not telling them how we're doing it, but they're trying to figure it out as well because they have the same challenges that we do. But I believe that this is the best process for us in this time period. If there's anything that I've left out, if there's anything that you think that we can add to this, brothers, you know I'm always open to suggestions. I'm looking forward to your great ideas and seeing if we can implement this. For the brother who talked about the fillable piece, Brother Strong, please make sure you reach out to me so that we can work through this. And we will go from there. All right. Do we have any suggestions for helping brothers fundraise for fees in an online environment? No, I don't. I mean, it's a tough environment out here, brothers. I mean, I know financially for a lot of individuals, being in a fraternity is a luxury, and so we're gonna have to ask brothers that men who want to join Phi Beta Sigma, it has to be a part of their budget if they want to join. And but I as of right now, I will tell you that the membership team doesn't have any ideas on how individuals can do this. No, we don't. Please send an email to the membership letting us know when this has been posted to the blueprint. Absolutely, Brother Vaughn, we will do that, and we'll move forward. Again, with that being said, thank you guys so very much. Truly appreciate you all. Have a good night. God bless.